two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back on Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, and we took a week off because I had personal family stuff to do, and are back. And I believe our good friend Boris here has subjected us to a movie in subtitles again. So
Sorry.
I'm okay with it. It's just the lady in the room that has a problem with it. But in any case, what movie did you subject to us this week?
Oh, this week it was the Japanese movie called Spiral from 1998, or in the original title, Rasen, directed by Joji Lida, written by Joji Lida and Koji Suzuki, starring Koichi Sato, Miki Nakatani, and Hinako Saeki. It's a sequel to Hideo Nakata's Ringu, also from 1998,
Or
and
is
it was
also considered or is also considered to be an alternative version to Ringu 2.
yes, yes, that's true. Uh, this movie was based on Koji Suzuki's novel Spiral, which is a sequel to his novel Ring, which the movie Ringu was based on. This story is actually more or less how the original writer of the story imagined the story of Ringu to continue. Although this movie, of course, deviates from the novel in certain ways, but we will get to that. While Ringu 2, which is Hideo Nakata's sequel to his first Ringu movie, it's the way he imagined the story of the first movie progressing. So yeah, this movie and Ringu 2 are set in two different universes, to put it that way. And yeah, Ringu 2 exists because apparently people didn't like this movie very much, even though, like I said, this movie is more or less how the original writer imagined the story continuing. But the problem is that Koji Suzuki's novel Ring does contain elements of horror, but it's more of a mystery story than horror. And the second novel, Spiral, contains even less horror elements. So when when they were making Ringu, they put a lot more emphasis on the horror component. So people who watched Ringu and liked it for being a horror movie, they also expected Spiral to be a plain horror story. So I guess that's why this movie didn't meet their expectations. So
Um, well, I'll explain once I get to my first impression another theory on that. But continue.
o- okay. So yeah, for that reason, or maybe also because this movie took some liberties and deviated from the novel in certain ways, that could also be the reason why some people disliked it. But yeah, unfortunately, this movie received a lot more negative feedback than I personally think it deserved. So that was why they eventually made another sequel, which is Ringu 2, as if this one didn't exist at all. And it was directed by Hideo Nakata, the director of the first Ringu movie. Uh, but yeah. Uh, at first, I wanted to do this movie, and next time it's my turn, we will be able to compare the two.
Oh, because we
Uh,
haven't gone on about Ringu 2 yet?
no, we have done the first Ringu, which is Hideo Nakata's version, a long time ago. Last time it was my turn, we did Ringu Kanzenban, which is a TV adaptation of the novel that was actually made before Nakata's Ringu. But Ringu 2 is one we have not done yet.
That's what I figured. So, in any case, what were your first impressions of this? And over time, now that you have rewatched it, do you like it even better or do you like it worse?
Oh, well, the first time I watched it, I liked it, although I could understand why some people didn't like it. Uh, when I watched it for the first time, I actually thought it had a shockingly uplifting ending for a horror story, which in a way was a reason why I liked it, because I generally do like happy endings, but at the same time, I could understand why horror fans would not like a movie ending like this one did. But then, after I watched this movie, I read the novel Spiral, which actually explained things much better than this movie. And when I read the novel, I realized the ending of this story is actually not quite as happy as I thought when I watched the movie for the first time. But in the novel, it's actually a very complex and philosophical ending. Personally, I liked the novel better than the movie. After reading the novel, I realized some of the improvisations they did in the movie were a little stupid and unnecessary, but overall, I do still like this movie, even though I have a few small issues with it. But generally, I still like it. And what about you too? Uh, okay, let's go with ladies first. So, what did you think of this movie, Tammy?
Well, the one thing I will say about it is I'm not sure Dave is going to say the same thing. It was very slow. It
Uh,
was, very, very slow moving. And with happening to read it because it was subtitles, it made it even harder to focus on it for me because
oh,
it was slow and then happening to read it on the sides. I was expecting more things to happen than did. And I mean, it was okay. And I get that it wasn't like total horror. It was more, like you said, a mystery, but I don't know. It just didn't do a whole lot for me because it went so slow, and then trying to and reading it, it was just really hard to stay focused on it.
oh, I'm sorry.
So,
Well, the novel Spiral actually is also a little slower than the novel Ring. That much is true.
but
Uh,
it was okay. I guess was expecting more, and like I said, it just was harder to keep focus on it.
huh, yeah, I understand.
And I'll
And
be
is
honest, myself. The pacing was definitely very slow, but I think it also didn't help that I was very tired when I watched it. So I started to fall asleep during it, but I did
oh,
get the general twist of it, and I believe that I had actually watched this one before. So because I had watched it before, most of it I could just like remember from memory. And the thing about it is there are things about it that are eerie, but
Hmm.
because there's not a whole lot that goes on action wise, and it's more of a slow generalization of what has happened to the doctor. And I'm sure we'll get into it as we go on. And it's just it was entirely slow. It was a slow burn, and I believe that the pacing is another thing that it um, that doesn't exactly make it a well uh, watchable film. But there are things that I do think that are cool. I mean, there wasn't that much of a supernatural angle, except for um, you know certain areas. And to me, they didn't show a lot of the um, grotesqueness that I know the ring to be or have. Like they
Who?
didn't show like didn't end up showing the bodies of the mother and son. They didn't end up showing. Well, they showed the cadaver and the of the later lover of the professor, but they didn't show the house she died or whatnot. There were elements that I wish that they would have been able to show on screen a little bit
Who?
more than they did. Like they okay, they could do the sitting upright cadaver of the professor dude who died, showing his like his innards have been taken out and shit, and him sitting up and saying, "Okay, what the fuck did you do to me?" But, but they couldn't do anything else to show any of the things that have happened, you know, except for maybe the guys coughing, the couple of guys that ended up having the virus coughing, but and yeah, you saw the one guy fall down, but it was just I wish we'd seen more, but
Uh,
that's just
yeah, true. And also, they made a mistake in the flashback of Mai Takano finding Takayama's corpse. Like in the original, in Ringu, we clearly see that everyone who dies from the videotape is found with that shocked expression of their face, with their mouths wide open and their eyes going somewhere uh, in some weird direction, and the whole face looking distorted. And in this flashback, there was nothing like that on Takayama's
nope,
face. So
nope.
that's a filming error.
Oh yeah, I don't think it helped matters that it didn't go into that at all. So to me, this whole entire film, okay, parts of it were entertaining and a little bit eerie, but at the end of the day, it was so slow and by the time it got to the end, I like the and we'll talk about it later, but I do like the end because the end seems a little bit more uplifting, but still kind of like a fuck you to the main character, you know.
Phew. A fuck you to the main character. Interesting thought. I'm looking forward to hearing more of your thoughts on that matter.
And you went. You talked about your thoughts on this, right?
Yes, my first impressions. Yes, I did.
Okay. Then let's go into how the film begins and what happens plot-wise.
Oh yeah. So at the very beginning, we get to know the main character of this story, who is also the protagonist of the corresponding novel, Mitsuo Ando, who is he doesn't appear in the previous story. So he is he is a pathologist who dissects dead bodies, performs autopsies, and determines causes of death. Uh, at the very beginning, we find out that he lost a son by the name of Takanori, who drowned in the ocean. What happened was in the movie it was shown through a series of flashbacks. It maybe it was a little confusing to some people who only watched the movie without reading the novel. But what actually happened there was the boy was drowning. Ando grabbed him by the hair and tried to pull him out of the ocean, but the stream pulled the boy away and snatched him out of Ando's grip. And the only thing that was left of him were a few strands of his hair that got stuck on the ring that Ando was wearing. So that was so he preserved those few hair strands as a memory of his son, whose body was never found, but there was no question about him being dead. And yeah, those hair strands being saved eventually play a major role in the plot, much more than one would expect, which is one of my personal favorite aspects of this story. And at the very beginning, before we see the task that Ando will receive at work, we see him try to commit suicide in order to be reunited with his son because he misses his son, but at the same time he blames himself for failing to save him. But yeah, he is contemplating slashing his wrists and ending his life, but eventually he cannot bring himself to do it. And then he receives a phone call, and his job calls. So, what do we think about this very beginning of the movie, where we get to know Ando and see him almost try to end his life?
Well, we obviously are introduced to the character at a very low point in his life, but then, as you said, his job, like his, it's because his job calls him is why he stops, trying to end his life, and it just so happens that it's his professor, a friend who believed in him at one point in time. Although even he said that he was different than anyone else he's ever known, you know, because he could see the future.
Uh, yes, Takayama was said to be able to see people's future, just not his own future, apparently.
Yep. So he is tasked with doing the or leading the autopsy of Takayama, I believe, right?
Yes.
And you see that his fellow nurses or doctors or whatnot are apparently they're taking all his organs out and separating them to figure out his cause of death. Because evidently that's something they do in an autopsy. They take and like
Yeah.
almost like cut the body open and take all the organs out and clean them up and try to see if there are any lumps or tumors or anything. And one of the things that that Ando is able to find is he finds actually a lesion on somewhere, and there's something with the coronary with his eyes that he finds too.
Oh yeah, thrombosis in the coronary artery, something like that.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah, those of us who saw Ringu, we actually know how Takayama died, but this movie was made just like the novel, so that it can somewhat be watched or read as a standalone story. It doesn't necessarily require you to be familiar with Ringu in order to be able to at least understand the gist of this story. Although, if you read Spiral as a standalone novel, like I said, you would be able to follow the main plot, but some details would remain kind of unclear. So understanding every single bit of the story requires reading the whole series. But yeah, so one major thing about Spiral is that in Ring, the whole thing is explained more or less as a curse, while this story deals more with the medical aspect of it. It it, portrays the whole thing of what Sadako does in more scientific terms, from a more scientific point of view.
Well,
And in
yeah,
the
and
novel,
there's one other thing that I wanted to say. In any of the other Ring movies, it, the curse or so-called virus is often passed on through the VHS tape. Well, there's another factor in here that we later figure out that apparently writing something down, like as in the Professor Takayama's journal, was also
that
another way of passing on the virus or so-called curse.
I'm sorry, that was Asakawa's journal, not Takayama's.
Okay,
The
so
female character.
okay, I knew it was someone's journal.
Yes.
So,
uh, yeah. Well, that part is actually also explained a little clumsily in this movie. It's much clearer in the novel. Now, not sure if you want me to explain it now or later.
probably later. Let's get through the main plot first.
Okay. Uh, so yeah, Ando dissects the body of Ryuji Takayama and he finds quite several anomalies and possible health issues like ulcers, tumors, thrombosis. I cannot even repeat all the things that were named there. Uh, so yeah, also in the novel there is a lot of scientific terminology used in that scene. You can in the novel you can really see that Koji Suzuki, the author, has an astounding amount of knowledge on human biology and all these illnesses and stuff. Although, of course, the whole thing in the novel is portrayed in scientific terms, but of course it's pseudoscience. Things like that, of course, cannot happen in this world. But it's still very interesting the way he translated the apparent curse portrayed in the first novel into a virus thing that can apparently be explained in plain medical terminology. Although the first novel does kind of imply that it might be a virus, although they completely excluded that topic from Hideo Nakata's Ringu, which is one of the reasons why this movie kind of happens to be a clumsy sequel to the first one. Uh, but yeah, so the major thing that Ando actually finds during this autopsy is a piece of paper that apparently turned up in Takayama's body, which contains some numbers. And
Which apparently Takayama, he was well known for using code to with his colleagues and students in order to relay messages to each other at times.
yeah, it was like a hobby they all were sharing. Some sort of fun they liked to have together. And Takayama's quotes were always the most difficult to decode, which implies that he was the smartest one among them all.
Oh yeah, but also one of the strangest.
Yeah. So there is this one flashback where Takayama gave Ando a coded word, which turned out to be the word Reaper, and he said that was Ando's future, which implies that he, by using his supernatural powers, predicted that Ando was going to become a pathologist.
Yep. And then the next code, which came from, I believe, the stomach, was evidently the word present, which
There were
would
two.
refer to.
There were two words. The first one was DNA, and that one was Ando decoded that one easily. The other one took more effort to decode, and yeah, that one said present.
Yep. And I believe that there was a journalist that contacted him and Ando, and said that um, he had found the journal at the home of Takayama.
Of Asakawa, you mean Reiko Asakawa,
Yeah,
Takayama's ex-wife?
yeah. He'd found the journal, but he'd also found the the VHS, which Ando later figures out is a copy of the film, but evidently that decoded message present was this VHS and the journal, um, and Ando, uh, with all of this being sent to him, he thought that the reason why he sent these things to him was for him to destroy them.
Oh yes,
So he
that
began
seems.
destroying them.
Yeah, that seems like the most logical explanation at that point in the story. Um, but yeah, let's see. Uh, so, uh, so yeah, Ando eventually watches the tape, but before that happens, there is also a police investigation going on. Uh,
Correct.
yeah, because even though Takayama died of a heart attack, from a heart attack, his death is still very strange. So they are suspecting
Well,
it might
very
be a
mysterious,
yes.
and they're quite harsh on Takayama's live-in girlfriend, which I believe she was a student of his at one point in time.
Yes.
And she
Now,
reveals that she has powers of her own later on.
yeah, which is apparently one of the reasons why she and Takayama were getting along so well.
Oh, they were getting more than along. I think they were having a relationship.
Yes. Yeah. There are, I think there are different versions of the story of what was happening between them. Like in the
But
novel,
I I I figured they were having a somewhat symbiotic sexual relationship where on a professional level they were very in tune with each other and each other's abilities, and it's hard to wrap my mind around an entirely sexual relationship. I do think it was sexual, but it also I think it was a deep friendship too.
yes, yes, I think so too. At least in this version, because in the Ring novel, it was clearly said that Takayama never had sex with Mai. But yeah, that's a different version of this story. Uh, so yeah, we get to know her a little better. We see very little of her in Ringu, but yeah, the police detective is being very harsh on her, which
Yeah, I think he was definitely being very harsh on her. Like, I don't even think our police men would be that cruel.
interesting. So yeah, his way of interrogating causes her to pass out. So she wakes up in Ando's office, and Ando is someone she has actually heard about before from Takayama himself. So she opens up to him a little bit more.
Oh, she more than opens up a little bit to him.
Eventually, yeah. uh, yeah, that's
But
true.
they begin a friendship of sorts. But she also sees his pain at one moment because evidently when she touches people, um, she can see things.
Yes, yes. So when she touched Takayama's body, when she found him, she saw the fear he experienced directly before his death, when he saw Sadako crawl out of the screen. Yet for some reason she saw only his reactions, but she didn't see what he was reacting to. She somehow didn't see Sadako.
You know, the other thing I realized about this film is there wasn't that much imagery of film. When he watched the VHS, I was expecting to see all of the images that you normally see, like on the VHS. Instead, it's more of a dreamlike state of seeing things, where it was more like a waking dream that he was having instead of seeing what was on the actual VHS. The only thing that seemed that they seemed to show was the chipped well that all of them seemed to mention. Wasn't there a piece missing from the well?
Yes, the well does appear, although we also vaguely see some imagery of the from the tape, like
Barely,
sorry, what?
barely.
Yeah. Although I guess they showed it that way in order to avoid being repetitive, because we see all of it in Ringu. So yeah, those who saw
Maybe, but
Ringu will.
I would have still liked to have seen some wicked imagery.
Well, okay, true.
I mean, the newspaper guy, he kept lying. Oh, did you watch the tape? No. Did you watch the tape? No.
But you could tell there was something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also forgot to mention that Reiko Asakawa, Takayama's ex-wife, who was the survivor of the first movie and who apparently figured out how to beat the curse, or what we find out here is a virus. So she thought the way to survive was to copy the tape and show it to someone else, which in other adaptations of this story actually is the solution. But this movie expands the story in a different direction, and
Yeah.
in this version, that's actually not the real solution. So we find
Yeah, because
out that
that one doctor who has evidently seen the tape and whatnot himself was like questioning him later, like what is it that you did that saved you from this? And very
uh,
loosely do they, over a period of time, uh, make it very suggestive that evidently he passed it through his genes, uh, through what's her name?
why?
Yeah, Mai. Later on, because that's why she went and disappeared. Well, it's not that she disappeared.
Uh,
Through Mai, Sadako was able to be reborn.
yes, and
And then, of course, he had a sexual encounter with, or Ando had a sexual encounter with Sadako, which evidently brought his boy back, right?
in a way, well, what actually happened there was, at first Ando had sex with Mai because he thought he was going to die. Uh, and yeah, apparently, since he was infected with the virus at that point, and he passed it on to Mai, so she got pregnant and gave birth to Sadako, who, since she is Sadako and not a normal human being, after she was born, grew she grew to adulthood in just a few days, and she took the a form physically identical to Mai. And yeah, then she met Ando and had sex with him again. and you could see that something was strange there because Ando had sex with Y before, but she was acting as if she was only half enjoying it. She wasn't acting very lustful with him, while this new version of her was acting a lot more erotic, a lot more lustful. So you can see that something strange is happening. And then,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and I don't know what was going on with his other doctor friend. Evidently, he was looking into some microscope type thing and figuring out something with DNA. And he came in and talked to Ando and was like, "This has got to be a new discovery." I don't know what he was referring to. Do you?
uh, yeah, the movie is a little clumsy in that part. Now, I'm not sure what exactly he meant with that particular line, but I can explain the whole thing better the way it's explained in the novel. So,
Okay.
what actually happened in the novel? They changed it quite a bit in the movie for whatever reason. I don't know why, but what happened in the movie was Mai actually watched the tape herself. The virus was not passed on to her by having sex with Ando, but she got it by watching the tape herself. However, the interesting thing was she watched the tape on the day of her ovulation. And since the virus has this circular shape, it's a ring of its own, right? So since she got the virus at the time of her ovulation, the ring form of the virus broke, and the virus took the form of a spermatozoid, and it fertilized her egg, and that was how she gave birth to Sadako. However, in the novel, the reborn Sadako doesn't look like why she looks like her original self, which is another thing they changed in this movie, and I don't know why. Because this actress who played Sadako in this movie, in the flashbacks, and after Ando watched the tape, and she emerged and apparently had some sort of sex with him. I would have actually loved to see that actress as the reborn Sadako instead of Sadako looking like Mai, which, after reading the novel, that's complete bullshit. I would have actually much preferred to see the actress who played Sadako in this movie appear as the reborn Sadako. It would have been more accurate to the novel, and also the actress was really beautiful, so I would have liked to see more of her. Uh, yeah, so the big discovery was, yeah, another important thing here, which you remember from Ringu Kanzenban, that at the very end of the tape there was a message that in order to survive the curse you have to copy the tape and show it to someone else, but
Yeah.
the very ending of the message was erased by those four who watched the tape before Asakawa. So in the novels, when those four erased the tape, the ending of the tape, they changed its content, and therefore they initiated the mutation of the virus. And also, the virus itself knew, since the end of the message was erased, and people who people who watched the tape would just die, and they wouldn't know how to save themselves. The virus
Because the
knew.
end of the message was not there, and they had to
Yeah,
figure it out on their own self.
yeah.
And
Uh,
how do you enact a curse without the way to, in fact, cure yourself of it? You know.
Yeah, so since the end of the message was erased, the virus itself knew it was going to die because all people who watched the tape would, the virus expected that everyone who watched the tape would just die because they wouldn't know how to save themselves. And so, even though a few copies of the tape were made, but it was safe to assume that those tapes would eventually be destroyed before the virus could really spread wide enough to survive. So that's another reason why the virus mutated and started to spread through a new medium because it wanted to survive. And since Reiko Asakawa, or in the novel, the male character Kazuyuki Asakawa, was writing this journal about the whole investigation. And of course, the journal also described the content of the tape in detail. The virus was able to mutate and start spreading through that writing. So, uh, it was eventually not spread only through the tape, but also through that writing. So the
Yep.
writing was
But as we learned in this one, we learned that the virus also mutated again through um, that sexual act that created a way for Sadako to come and be reborn, and then his son was then reborn through her.
uh,
But that's what when the professor guy Takayama came and said it is something about the great spiral of life or something to that effect. It's almost like he's saying talking about the circle of life. You know.
uh, yeah, he is talking about evolution. And yeah, that's another part that's explained better in the novel because, like I said in the novel, what Y gives birth to is not some hybrid between her and Sadako. It's just Sadako herself. And yeah, in the novel it said that Sadako was going to continue multiplying because when other women catch the virus during their ovulation, they would give birth to another Sadako, while Sadako herself can also give birth to more Sadakos. So at the end of the novel, it's predicted that humanity as it is right now would eventually go extinct and be replaced by Sadako's clones. But yeah, but Takayama is providing his philosophical view on it, and he actually says that's a new stage of evolution, and that it's not really a bad thing because by that happening, humanity is actually achieving what it always wanted, which is immortality and world peace. Because if humanity being as diverse as it is right now, if humans being as we are right now, if we died out and if we were all replaced by clones of one individual, which is Sadako in this case, then we would all be one collective consciousness which would not be fighting itself. So there would be no more wars, no more hatred, no more conflicts. And yeah, since all those clones would have one single consciousness, then one body dying would mean nothing because Sadako's consciousness would continue to exist through her clones multiplying over and over again,
in,
which
in that view and line sight, though, then would that Sadako still remember the evil that had been done to her in that whole process? You know, would
oh shit.
would then the revenge be like
Uh, she would probably remember it, but since she is alive, I guess she is no longer a spirit or a virus or anything like that. What happened to her in life, no, in her previous life before her death, it just no longer matters now. All she wants is to live forever through her infinitely multiplying clones.
Hmm. Okay. So that's what
That's
the
how it
novel
is in the
suggests.
yeah, that's how it is in the novels. In the movie, they like I said, they deviated from the concept, and that's why the explanation they provided is a little all over the place and difficult to understand.
I just wonder what the big discovery was by the one doctor
Hmm.
was because
Um,
he came into the room and was like to Ando. He was like, "Well, this is a big discovery. I mean, this could whatever he had found um, could be like huge in the medical community or whatnot.
uh,
I
now I'm
wonder if
not
that was
sure.
explained in it.
Now I'm not sure at which exact point in the story he was saying that, but it could be maybe about the virus now spreading through Asakawa's journal. Maybe it was about that, or
Because
maybe
he was looking at some kind of DNA, and I think he was explaining that the curse or whatnot, whoever or whatever had died would be reborn up until the age that um, they were they had died at.
oh
Um,
that. Oh yeah, well the big discovery in that case is that they could bring the dead back to life by those means.
okay, that's what I was and I do believe that that's something that Ando brings up to Takayama in the end too. That you know, we could do that for your son and your wife and whatnot if you wanted. And he's like, and I think Takayama said, I would not even wish that upon them, even if I wanted to.
Yeah, he said.
Why would I bring them back only to live in this fucked up world to begin with?
He's not entirely
Basically,
wrong, is he?
no, he's not. What do you think about that concept, Tammy? Do you think it would have been a good thing to be able to bring Takayama's family back through this discovery of bringing the dead back?
No, not really. Because they,
And it's almost kind of like a be careful what you wish for type thing, you know?
right. I mean, I don't think it would have been good because of everything surrounding how they would have been brought back. It wouldn't have been good.
What do you think about that? The fact that Sadako could come back and reclone herself over and over again, and uh, according to Takayama, that's not exactly a bad thing because then there would be world peace and all that jazz. What do you think about that aspect of
I don't see where it would be world peace just because she could clone herself.
it? Why not?
Well, in the novel, it's explained in terms of humanity as it is right now would die out, and all that would remain of humanity would be Sadako's clone. So all living humans would have one single consciousness, which would be Sadako's consciousness. So that one single consciousness wouldn't be fighting itself, so there would be no more wars or anything like that.
Well, I guess if there would be no more wars, it'd be a good thing. But that um, that would eventually go away anyways because human nature, you know, that might last for a little bit that there's no more wars, but somewhere down the line, somebody will get mad at somebody and it'll start all over again. It would never stay no more wars.
And when
Uh,
I think about clones, I think about like the Borg from like Star Trek Next Generation, like those creatures in Star Trek were born. Well, not born. They were machines that were made from human beings that they collected over time and turned into destroyers. And they were all one collective, one mind. you know.
who,
Um,
who interesting comparison.
so to me, thinking about that, even though yes, they don't have any feelings, we as humans, what makes us humans are our feelings and our empathy. You know, I mean, we're not just a bunch of Michael Myers turning our head at our victims, trying to figure out what feels better, the killing or what. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's like as saying, okay, let's take the DNA of Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger and every killer known to man, splice it all together and have it reborn through a human, a host, and then expecting that there's going to be world peace from it all.
Well, in this story, they don't really bring serial killers back to life that way.
No, but Sadako did cause death.
Yes. So the only person uh, the only persons other than herself that she brought back to life were Takayama because he helped her be reborn, and Takanori has a reward to Ando for participating in it as well.
So, and I believe that that brings us to the production area of things. So, what did you think about the production overall?
Ooh, uh, well, I think the production was quite good for what this movie required, except, like I said, the whole thing about Sadako looking like Mai instead of like herself. That would be my one major issue with this movie. But aside from that, I don't really have any big issues with the production. Oh yeah, the fact that they forgot the distorted facial expressions of the victims of the tape.
I would have to agree with that, but I also think that um, for having started out with the body of Takayama, all of his organs out, and you have that sort of gross moment where he just sits up and asks, "What the hell are you doing to my body?" type of thing. Um, like, if they could go there, why couldn't they go there the entire the rest of the film? I don't think they did. I mean, they said that the ex-wife and the child died, but we saw no bodies, and we didn't see the accident, and we just were told that it had to happen. I would have liked to have seen that.
Actually, I don't know the reason why they didn't do that. Now, maybe they had some issues, including including the actress from the first movie in this one, but that's just my speculation. I don't really know.
I don't know. What do you think, Tammy, of the production overall? Now that you've heard some of the novelization of it behind some of the scenes.
Well, I think the production was kind of lacking a little bit. It sounds like compared to the novel. And like we said at the beginning, it just seemed very slow moving. Um,
And not a whole lot of things going on.
no,
More drama than anything else.
so I mean, yeah, I think one of the biggest wows was the one that you mentioned. When dude sat up
Oh,
after everything was taken out of him, and he sat up like that.
yeah. Like
uh,
if they'd have had more of that going on and whatnot, and maybe, I mean, it was kind of interesting when it seemed like Sadako was making him feel what she felt at the bottom of the well in the water. That was kind of interesting. An interesting moment where it seemed like he was drowning, like his son was drowning. Because didn't his son
good,
drown?
good comparison. See, as much as I analyzed the shit out of this franchise back in 2012 and 2013, that comparison never crossed my mind. That when Ando was experiencing Sadako's fear, that he maybe also experienced what his son experienced at the moment of drowning.
Well, yeah, that's
Very
kind of what
good.
I got because he didn't his son die by drowning?
Yes, yes, he did.
So to me, that's also heightened his fear while she was trying to have him feel her fear, even though there was really no reason why she should attack the. Okay, it's always been my thought process that Sadako kills those who do nothing to spread exactly all the bad things that happen to her through these images. And to me, the images on the VHS tape have always uh, been born from that concept that just like during like some of the wars that we've had in the United States, they did drug testing where with PCP and things of that nature, where people would actually see these images, and some would be able to be commanded to do much evil uh, or whatnot through imagery. Like you could, it's the subliminal messages behind imagery, you know. And there was a lot of that going on in the late '60s, the early '70s, experimentation with those type of drugs, psychedelic drugs, to be. So to me, it's almost like these images are subliminal messages to tell you
Whew.
exactly, but you have to piece together the mystery of the images, and it's
Uh,
always been a puzzle for people to figure it out. She didn't exactly make it easy for people to figure out what happened to her, you know, throughout the Ring franchise. And I don't think the message of what was trying to be portrayed was entirely thought out that much in this film. I get exactly what was going on, and some of it was cool. Um, but the pacing of the film, to me, the pacing, it was tremendously slow, and I think the concept that was trying to be portrayed was lost in the slowness of the filmmaking. But it was entertaining to me to a certain extent. And learning some of the things that happened at the novel kind of helped me figure out like the missing pieces of what I was trying to, you know, understand myself while reading and watching. So, but
Yeah, yeah, actually, like I said, there are parts of this movie that are quite difficult to understand without being familiar with the novel, which, like I said, it's partially because the first movie, Hideo Nakata's Ringu, it took a lot of liberties and changed a lot of things from the novel. And this movie was based on the novel Spiral, which is a sequel to the first novel, while this movie was not supposed to be a sequel to the first novel, but to the first movie, which changed a lot from the first novel. So they also had to change a lot from the novel so that this movie could be a sequel to the first movie, and that's where a major part of this clusterfuck came from.
so that's, I mean, production wise, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but I do think that that cadaver moment was pretty cool. Cool. The concept of the drowning, somewhat in between. The concept that in order that Ando was able to that moment where his doctor friend was like, "What did you do differently? That you're surviving. That you are a survivor." And and I think that that even in the last film that we discussed, I feel like that what the fuck moment did I do differently was done better in the last film that we discussed in the ring.
Well,
uh,
yeah,
done better.
that that movie Ringu Kanzen, but it actually follows the novel much more closely than Hideo Nakata's version.
But that being said, it was okay. The production was okay. I mean, and my biggest problem is the slowness. I mean, it was put to sleep slowness. I was tired, but it should have at least kept my attention. Like you can't have a movie that slow, you know. And that's the thing, unfortunately, with the creme de la creme of the artistic ones, the ones that normally uh, people put forward for like the Oscars. Trust me, all of them fuckers, all of them films are mainly slow and put you to sleep. But that's what they call art, you know. At least that's what I've seen. They put the ones that would put you to sleep, but in the circle of film lovers that love to be put to sleep and yet call them masterpieces. um, yeah, that's how what I think of this film. Um, did 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 you say anything about the production already for us?
uh, yes, I already did give my thoughts on it.
Alrighty,
Uh,
then let's go
Tammy,
with the music. Did anyone
uh,
notice the music?
I'm sorry, did Tammy say anything about the production?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't really notice much of the music. There is the background music, which I guess goes fairly well with the atmosphere, but nothing outstanding. I think there is a song in the ending credits, although I didn't really pay that much attention
I
to
guess
it
the
either.
composer of Spyro was La Finca, whoever that was, and she's done no other production before or since. So,
Interesting.
uh, but okay, let's go to favorite scenes and/or favorite characters. Let's start with you, Tammy. Ladies first. Did you have any favorite scenes and/or favorite characters?
Um, I guess um the main guy, the doctor, you know,
Ando,
huh?
Ando or Takayama?
I think the Ando.
Hmm.
Okay. And why
And
did you like Ando?
cause I did.
Okay. Well, some people have reasons. I did not like Ando as much because he kept destroying shit when he should have been copying shit. But that's me. And to me, that was totally foolish and stupid.
Um, favorite scene. Um, I guess when dude wakes up or with the dream,
Takayama.
the guy that sits up with all his insides gone.
That's
Ah,
Takayama.
Takayama, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird and freaky.
Yeah. Mm.
The only thing you'll probably remember from the movie. But anyways, heading over to
Nice.
Boris here. Uh, favorite scenes and/or favorite character or
Well,
characters?
my favorite character is probably Takayama, although I'm much influenced by the novels. Uh, maybe I should be observing this movie as a standalone, but I cannot help thinking about the novels where Takayama is a very special presence, a very interesting character, and definitely my favorite. So, oops, I forgot. When we had our last discussion, I took the nickname Ryuji Takayama. I forgot to do that this time. But yeah, he would be my favorite character. Although now when Tammy named Nando as her favorite, I think he would actually be my second favorite because there is his character revolves quite a bit around a certain moral dilemma, which I think is very interesting because at first, as you, Dave, said, he destroyed the tape because he wanted to be the last person to die from it. He wanted to sacrifice himself in order to prevent anyone else from dying that way. But later on, when he had to make the choice whether to help Sadako or not, in that case, if he had gone with his initial moral values, he would have refused to help her. But when there was the question of bringing his son back to life, that was a temptation he could not resist. So he went against his initial moral values in order to have his son back, which is I guess we could say it's something that people could judge as wrong, but at the same time, it's something that most people would really do in his situation. So that's one very interesting thing about his character, which is why he is my second favorite. But yeah, my top favorite would be Takayama because I like him from the novels and because his presence in this story was also very interesting, especially in the novel, very philosophical, very mind blowing after reading the novel. So, yeah, and my favorite scene would probably be the ending where Takanori and Takayama come back to life. And I was watching the movie for the first time. I was very shocked by that scene, especially if you see uh, when Takanori appears alive once again. There is this blurry tint to the screen, and which kind of makes you wonder if it's really happening or if Ando is just having some dream or something like that. But then when you actually see that the boy actually came back to life, and then you also see Takayama being alive again, it's a really mind-blowing moment, and it's one of my personal favorite moments. So yeah, I guess that would be my favorite scene.
Okay. Well, me myself, I do like that body cavity scene of Takayama sitting up. I do like that moment when Sadako is having him drown inside the well moment, and I do like the ending myself as far as anything goes that way. As far as favorite characters, I like Takayama and Maya.
Ooh,
I think
interesting.
Takayama first, but Maya second because Maya as a character, she is pretty for an Asian chick, you know,
Well,
and
true.
she does exhibit some character moments that are um, uh, like the fact that she can feel his pain and whatnot, and the fact that Takayama was the only one that she felt comfortable with, and you do kind of feel sorry for her because she did have that you know feeling like, well, he left me alone. Why didn't he take me with him? You know, kind of
Oh,
thing
well, true.
going on. That and you know but Takayama, well, he's an interesting character because not only him but his son was also predictive of the future. So it's almost like you know um, not only did Sadako kill uh, Takayama and his son, uh, but they also had powers of their own that made them almost kind of similar to Sadako and her mother. Um,
Ooh,
in the aspect that they were had powers, powers to
yes,
possibly see into the future.
yes.
So it's almost like even though I know everything was bad that happened to Sadako, but did she really have to take two more two or three more people from this world that were special, like her and her mother, in order to, you know, enact this a curse, you know, so our
Well,
virus.
in the novel, it's a virus, and while Sadako was partially responsible for the virus being brought into existence, she does not really control it.
Nope. So, did anyone else have anything else to add, though?
Who Well, I was going to point out a few more differences I remember between the novel and the movie. Uh,
Okay.
so in the novel, if you remember, Reiko Asakawa is actually a male character, Kazuyuki Asakawa, and instead of Reiko's son, we have Kazuyuki's wife and newborn child. So in the novel Spiral, there was also a car accident when Asakawa thought that he had saved his wife and child by copying the tape and showing it to his wife's parents. In the car, he noticed that his wife and child were dead, and that was what caused him to crash his car. And but in this movie, Reiko Asakawa died in that accident. But in the novel, Asakawa was actually still alive, but he remained in the hospital in a catatonic state. And Ando actually got to see him, but Asakawa was completely unresponsive. It was impossible to get him to say a single word. And then a while later, it was said that Asakawa also died, probably from depression or something. But yeah, that was another difference. Then what else was there? I think there was one more thing that I wanted to mention, one more difference, but I cannot. Oh yeah, in the novel, this reporter Yoshino, who actually appears in the Ring novel, and he also briefly appears in Ringu Kanzenban, but he was excluded from Hideo Nakata's Ringu. In the novel Spiral, he does appear and he is a part of the investigation, but he doesn't die. I uh, uh, I forgot how exactly they discovered that the virus is being spread through Asakawa's writing, but yeah, I remember that Yoshino doesn't die in the novel. Uh, the novel is also interesting because it says that it specifies the title of Asakawa's journal. It says it will be published as a novel, and the novel is titled Ring, which is an obvious allusion to Koji Suzuki's novel Ring, which is actually about Asakawa's investigation, which is also what Asakawa's journal is about. So in the novels they bring a little bit of realism into the story that way. And in the novel they also say that a movie will be made based on Asakawa's book, which is an allusion to the movie Ringu Kanzenban, which came out in 1995, just like the novel Spiral. So, and in the novel, it also said that the virus will also be spread through the movie. So that's another interesting detail from the novel I wanted to mention. And yeah, the codes that Takayama sends to Ando are also different. The first code doesn't say DNA and present. It says the first code is decoded into the word ring, which is an announcement of the Ring novel being published at the end of the story.
Okay.
There were a few more things, but I cannot remember them off the top of my head, so I guess that will be it.
Alrighty. Well, hopefully you, as ladies and gentlemen out there in the audience, have enjoyed our discussion on this particular film. It's technically I believe, the third installment in the initial Ring series from Japan. Um,
In a way, but this is a sequel to Hideo Nakata's Ringu, Ringu Kanzen, but is a standalone movie. It does not have sequels.
Okay, so technically this is a second a sequel to the original Ringu.
Oh yeah.
But it is the third installment in the the Ringu franchise, which is not to say anything about the American uh, 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 trilogy that's out there. Which you asked me, if I had gotten that Shout Factory box set. I have not. So, because I have I have all three American rings as DVDs, and technically I'm kind of fine with those. So, but in any case, hopefully you have liked our discussion, and let us know down in the comments what you thought of the discussion and what you thought of the movie. And I guess we'll see you next time. I believe it's Tammy's turn next. Is it not?
I think so.
I think so.
So, did you have a suggestion to put forward for next week?
I'm still thinking.
Well, I guess it'll be a mystery for y'all. So, but make sure you let us know by midweek. In any case,
Will do.
like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week here on Delusions of Grandeur. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming along with us for the ride. And since it is the end of the Halloween season, it doesn't mean that we aren't returning to any scary movies.
Oh yeah, because we started it a little late, so we can go on about it a little longer.
Yeah, at least until the Christmas season. In any
Fair
case,
enough, I'm in for that.
on that note, everyone, say good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.